There was a time when money controlled almost every thought I had, not luxury money problems or investment problems, but survival problems, the kind that quietly follow you everywhere, while driving, while trying to sleep, while sitting with family pretending everything is okay. And that constant pressure changes you in ways most people never understand unless they've lived through it themselves. Because financial stress is not just about numbers in a bank account. It becomes emotional, psychological, physical. It affects how you think, how you speak, how you make decisions, and even how you see your own future. I remember checking my bank account before buying the smallest things, calculating bills in my head constantly, rent, food, electricity, responsibilities, always feeling like one unexpected expense could throw everything apart. And what scared me most wasn't being broke. It was feeling trapped, feeling like no matter how hard I worked, life kept resetting every single month. Work, pay bills, recover slightly, repeat again, with no real momentum, no breathing room, just survival disguised as stability. And for a long time, I believed the answer was simple: work harder, earn more, push further. So that's exactly what I did. Longer hours, less sleep, more exhaustion, always believing relief was somewhere ahead of me. But eventually I realized the real problem wasn't only income, it was dependence. Because when your entire life depends on constantly trading time for survival, exhaustion stops being temporary and becomes your normal state of existence. And once I noticed that dependence, I started seeing fragility everywhere. One missed paycheck, one emergency, one bad month, that's all it takes for most people to begin falling apart financially. And that realization stayed in my head for months, maybe years, until one day I came across crypto. Not through some dramatic breakthrough moment, but almost accidentally. And honestly, at first I ignored it because it looked chaotic. People online screaming about coins, charts flying up and down, stories about overnight millionaires and devastating losses. It looked unstable and risky, but underneath all that noise I noticed something deeper happening. People weren't only talking about profits, they were talking about ownership, decentralization, digital assets, alternative financial systems, and for the first time I realized crypto wasn't just another investment trend. It represented a completely different way of thinking about money itself. And that idea pulled me in slowly. I didn't jump in aggressively because I couldn't afford to. When you're financially stressed, every dollar carries emotional weight, so I started carefully, learning first, watching markets, reading constantly, trying to understand why millions of people were moving toward this new system so quickly. And the first painful lesson I learned was that most people enter crypto emotionally. They chase hype, buy because of excitement, sell because of fear, and lose because they have no structure. And I realized immediately that if I carried my stressed survival mindset into crypto, the market would destroy me emotionally and financially, because desperation and investing never work well together. So instead of looking for overnight freedom, I focused on understanding systems, market psychology, digital finance, risk management, and slowly my perspective started changing. Before crypto, I only thought in terms of earned income, hours worked, paychecks received, but crypto introduced me to asset thinking, ownership thinking, leverage thinking, and that shift changed everything. Because I began understanding the difference between income and wealth. Income helps you survive, but assets help you build freedom. And freedom comes from systems that continue working even when you are not physically present every second of the day. That realization completely changed my priorities. I became obsessed with learning, not gambling or chasing random coins, but genuinely learning how digital economies function. Because I realized crypto was connected to something much bigger. The entire world was becoming digital. Money, communities, businesses, attention itself, and digital systems scaled differently than traditional labor ever could. One video can reach millions. One digital asset can grow globally. One idea can compound for years. And that realization completely broke my old understanding of work and money. But the journey was far from smooth. There were losses, mistakes, moments where I questioned everything, nights staring at charts wondering if I had made terrible decisions, days where market crashes brought all my old financial stress rushing back instantly. And over time, I realized the real battle wasn't against the market, it was against my own psychology, fear, impatience, impulsive thinking, scarcity mentality, because financially stressed people often operate from urgency. And urgency creates terrible decisions. So I slowed down, stopped chasing hype, stopped comparing myself to internet success stories, stopped trying to get rich quickly, and instead, I built rules. Rules created stability, only invest what I could afford to hold long term. Never make emotional decisions late at night. Never buy because strangers online were excited. Never panic because of headlines. Focus on systems instead of excitement. And strangely enough, those rules changed more than any specific investment ever did, because as my structure improved, my stress slowly started decreasing too. Not instantly, not dramatically, but gradually. And that gradual shift changed my entire life. I slept better, thought more clearly, planned further ahead, because financial stress traps your mind in survival mode, and survival mode destroys long-term thinking. But once pressure decreases, perspective expands, and that was the first real feeling of freedom I experienced. Not luxury or massive wealth, but mental space. The ability to breathe without constant panic sitting in the background of every thought. And eventually, crypto connected me to opportunities I never imagined before. Online communities, digital income streams, content creation, global networks, business ideas, and I realized crypto itself wasn't the entire opportunity. The real opportunity was positioning yourself early in a changing world, because finance was evolving, ownership was evolving, the internet itself was evolving, and people who adapted early gained enormous advantages. And once my mind changed, my actions changed too. I became calmer, more intentional, more patient, less desperate. And that shift improved my financial life more than any single investment ever could, because desperation destroys decision-making. People think financial freedom starts with money, but honestly, it starts with perspective, with learning how to think long-term, how to build systems instead of chasing relief, how to create assets instead of depending entirely on labor, and crypto forced me to develop those skills. Not because it magically solved my problems, but because it forced me to evolve mentally, and today I still work hard, probably harder than before, but there's a major difference now. My effort builds my own systems, my own assets, my own future, not just temporary survival. And looking back, I realized financial freedom was never one giant breakthrough moment. It was hundreds of small decisions repeated consistently over time.